Look at these guys. They want to sell you a car. Look at them. Do you trust them? It's an important question, because if he's thinking he can't wait for you to be the proud owner of a 65 Shelby GT350, then he'll probably work with you and honestly answer your questions. But if he's thinking, I got a sucker here who knows nothing about a 63 DB4 Aston Martin, well, then you've got a problem. So how do you buy a classic car? And how do you know if you're getting ripped off? What does everybody know that you don't? After all, while there's some great finds out there, there's also a lot of dishonest players dealing in rare vintage vehicles. Well, don't worry, I've got you covered. I'm about to go over every step and every trick so you'll know what to look for, both good and bad. I want you to have that dream car, and I've made every mistake in the book, so I know what to look out for. Don't buy a car before watching this video. I could tell you about creating a budget and doing your research and all that lame, obvious prep, but you can Google that. So instead, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and imagine your dream car. And next, I want you to answer these 5 questions. Honestly, don't tell yourself a story that you want to hear. Be real. Number 1, why do I want it? And I know the answer is because it's cool, but I'm looking for something else. Is it because you want to drive it? Or just collect it and pull it out a few times a year for local car shows or cruise night? Or is it going to be your everyday car? Or is it just going to sit in your garage? Number 2, what condition of a car is acceptable to you? Do you want it in pristine condition? Or are you excited to get under the hood and tinker? And what do you know about engines, or vintage parts, or custom bodywork? And if the answer is nothing, that's okay, but know that. Number 3, do I want to sell it one day? I get that you haven't even bought the classic car yet, but ask yourself, do I want it because I hope it will appreciate? Is it an investment? Are you going to give it to your kids? I speak from experience. Buying a classic car is like buying a boat. The day you get it is some of the best days of your life, but getting rid of it is some of the worst. You should know going in what your long-term plan is, and whether it's an investment and you want it to appreciate, or was it just fun while it lasted? Number 4, where are you going to keep it? Do you have a garage, or will it just be parked in your driveway? You wouldn't buy a couch without knowing if it fits in your living room, so you shouldn't buy a car without a plan for where to keep it. Are you going to rent a garage space somewhere? And if you live in a cold environment, putting a sheet over it while it sits in your driveway all winter is the wrong way to go. And finally, number 5, I'm going to talk about budget. Vintage cars can range greatly in price. I mean, some selling for millions of dollars. For example, a 1963 Ferrari GTO sold for a record-setting $53 million in 2013. However, a classic 1965 Mustang can be found in the $20,000 to $30,000 range. And while a 69 Chevy Camaro may cost between $25,000 and $35,000, a 1973 VW Beetle may run between $10,000 and $15,000. And a 57 Chevy Bel Air could cost upwards of $50,000. Keep in mind that these are just ballpark estimates, and prices can vary depending on the car's condition, rarity, and other factors. And there are many more costs that you probably aren't even thinking about, such as maintenance, insurance, registration restrictions, and even transportation costs, all of which we'll talk about later on in this video. Buying a classic car is like buying a piece of art. Their value depends not only on the condition of the car, but the rarity of it and the history of the make and model. You wouldn't buy a painting just by adding up the costs of a brush, paint, and a canvas. It's about the story of the artwork and the artist that creates a perceived value. And like a painting, what attracts me to a car is its story. I like to know not only the history of the make and the model, but when I see a car, I like to know something about its past. Who owned it? Where did it live? Why are they selling it? Paint me a picture of this car's story. Sometimes even the search for a perfect car is part of the story of the car I eventually find. I need a story when I buy a rare car, but that's just me. And that leads me to where do you look for classic cars? Knowing this is just as important as knowing what to look for. After all, classic cars are not your typical automobiles. You just can't walk into a brand new car showroom and expect to find one. So let's talk about the pros and cons of each. Number 1, classic car dealerships. These dealerships specialize in buying and selling vintage cars. They have a wide selection of vehicles to choose from, ranging from beautifully restored to diamond-in-the-rough project cars. And usually the dealers know that you want to know all the dirty details and can provide valuable information about the history and condition of the cars they sell. Keep in mind that prices at a dealership may be higher than other sources, but you'll have the peace of mind knowing that you're buying from a trustworthy dealer. Some of the more reputable ones are Street Side Classics, Getaway Classic Cars, and Volo Auto Museum. Don't worry, I'm going to put links to every place I talk about in this video down in the description. Personally, if I can get a car from a reputable classic car dealership, I will always choose this option. Now, do not go and buy a car on the same day. Never impulse buy. You need to look around at similar year, make, and models to get a sense of costs and what to expect. And if you're like me, a great car sticks in your mind for days and weeks after you've considered it. If it doesn't, then it's not speaking to you, and it's a pass. Number 2, online auctions. Online auction sites like Bring a Trailer and even eBay have become popular places to buy and sell classic cars. These sites allow you to browse a wide selection of vehicles from all over the country and often provide detailed information about each car, including high-quality photos, vehicle history reports, and even videos of the car in action. However, buying a car sight unseen can be risky, and you can't kick the tires of a car on a website. I strongly suggest seeing a car in person before you purchase one, but if that's not possible, you need someone you can trust, whether it's a friend, hired professional, or a gearhead to go look at it. Don't buy a car sight unseen. 3. Classic car shows. Attending local classic car shows is my best kept secret. These are people who have already been through it, and they're rooting for you. Also, walking rows of vintage cars is a great way to get ideas for what you want and don't want. It's a chance to view classic cars from different eras and manufacturers all in one place, and usually the owner is there to answer questions. And they'll be honest, they have nothing to lose. And usually, there are cars for sale, and you may even be able to speak with the owner and get a first-hand look at the car. And there are tons of local car shows in your area, I promise. Just Google it. Next to dealerships, I go to car shows. Number 4, private sellers. Private owners often sell classic cars, either through classified ads or word of mouth, but buying from a private seller can be tricky as it's sometimes difficult to determine the car's true condition or history. There's an inherent trust from a classic car lover selling their prized Corvette, but a private seller trying to unload his mother's T-Bird isn't on your side. They just want to sell the car. However, this can also be an opportunity to find a great deal on a well-maintained car if you request detailed information and photos from the seller and have a trusted inspector check the car thoroughly before making an offer. You can find private sellers from all over the world through online classified websites such as Hemmings, or through online forums such as the UK-based The Classic Car Forum. And as far as brokers are concerned, some of the more reputable ones specializing in classic cars include Symbolic International, Classic Cars Limited, and Fantasy Junction. Number 5, classic car clubs. This may seem like a rare way of buying a classic car, but joining a classic car club can be a great way to meet other enthusiasts and learn about local buying and selling opportunities. Many clubs also have resources for buying and restoring classic cars. Some of the famous clubs are Classic Car Club of America, Antique Automobile Club of America, and Classic Car Club of Manhattan. This can be a great way to network and find out about rare or hard-to-find classic cars that may not be listed for sale elsewhere. Now, I told you where to look for a great find, but it's equally important to know the places you should definitely avoid. Street vendors. Never buy from a guy in the street. These sellers may not have proper paperwork, and the car's history and condition may be unknown or misrepresented or even faked. I once sold my crappy Mercedes convertible to an unsuspecting dupe this way, and I'm an honest guy. I even once sold a car to a young college student and even went to the DMV with him, helped him transfer the title, handed him the keys in the parking lot, and left, knowing full well that car wasn't going to start as soon as he sat behind the wheel. Number 2, salvage yards or junkyards. While it may be tempting to purchase a classic car from a junkyard, I promise you there's a reason that car's in the junkyard. Unless you're buying it for parts only, never buy a car here. Not even if you think you can restore it, it's parts only. You'll thank me later. I don't care who you are. Never be the only opinion on a car's condition. There are so many fakes out there, and scammers, which we'll get into later, preying on your enthusiasm. They ask you friendly questions to suss out your knowledge, and they're lying so much or omitting key information. And it's so common for scammers to hide or downplay any issues with the car to make it seem like a better deal, use emotional tactics, such as playing up a car's history or sentimental value to set an unrealistic price, and pressure buyers into making a quick decision to buy the car without giving them enough time to inspect the vehicle or consider their options. And look, I'm a sucker for all of this, and I've learned the hard way, multiple times, that you need a second opinion and keep that excitement in your gut in check. And with that, here are 5 tips you can use to make sure you're getting a good deal. Tip 1. Research the car. Sounds obvious, but know the history of the year, make, and model. Were there any recalls? What came standard? There are websites that will allow you to search for the car you're interested in and read reviews about them. For example, Classic Car News and Vintage Car Connection. Also, see if a car history report exists. This report will tell you if the car's been in any accidents, if it has any outstanding debts, or even if it's been stolen. You can get a history report from service providers like Carfax or AutoCheck for under $100. Moreover, you can use VinCheck, which is a free service provided by the National Insurance Crime Bureau that allows you to check on a vehicle's history for theft or salvage records. Tip 2. Check for original parts. Classic cars that are in good condition should have original parts, including the engine, transmission, body, and more. If you notice that some of the parts have been replaced, it's important to find out why. Replacing parts is not necessarily a bad thing, but it could be a red flag if the seller can't give you a good reason why the parts are replaced. Furthermore, check the parts for manufacturer markings, logos, and special numbers to confirm if they match the original parts. Often, genuine parts have unique markings that are difficult to replicate. Tip 3. Look for signs of wear and tear. Classic cars that are in good condition should show some signs of use, but they shouldn't be falling apart. While a little amount of rust and dust shouldn't bother you, if the rust is severe and has considerable damage to the body or chassis, it may be cause for concern. Similarly, from the inside, if you see any major issues such as torn seats or cracked dashboard, that can cost a lot. You should also take a closer look at all the electrical components and make sure that the lights and other features are working properly, because issues with damaged cables can be expensive to repair. Tip 4. Get a professional inspection. Don't ignore this. I don't care who you are, get a professional opinion. They know potential problems not visible to the untrained eye. Anyone who pressures you to buy and skip an independent inspection is ripping you off. The inspector will check the car's engine, transmission, suspension, brakes, body, and frame, as well as the vehicle's documentation and history, and other mechanical components to ensure they're working good. Getting a professional inspection may cost a few $100s, but it can potentially save you thousands of dollars in repair costs, or the disappointment of buying a fake car. Plus, if the inspector finds any issues with the car, you can use that information to negotiate a better price, or walk away from the deal altogether. And, this is important, get your own private appraisal, not the insurance company inspector. Because while the insurance company will inspect and appraise your vehicle, that's just for the appraised price. And speaking of insurance, talk to the insurance company before you buy the car. No one likes to learn that they spent $50,000 on a classic car and the insurance company says they'll only insure it for $15,000. When you're sure this is the car you want, negotiating the price is key. The condition, mileage, and rarity of the car are factors that will influence the price, and I suggest you hire a third-party evaluator to give you an unbiased value of your dream car. And don't be afraid to walk away if the deal isn't right for you. Buying a classic car is a process, and you want that story, because as soon as you drive away with that car, there's no refund. And speaking of costs, and this is important, if you don't want to be shocked later on, here's a list of things you need to know. Taxes. The amount of taxes you have to pay in a car will depend on various factors, including the value of the car, the state of where the car's registered, and even the rarity. These taxes can include state taxes, sales taxes, and even luxury taxes. And if one day you sell the car for a profit, there's a 20% capital gains tax. And no, it's not a write-off. Registration. Registering a classic car is different than a regular car, as the headlights, seat belts, safety can all go against current requirements. Go to your local DMV and check it out. Also, make sure you know what kind of fuel your car requires. Is it diesel? Leaded? And is it available in your town? Transporting the car to you. Where is the car you bought? And where are you? If you're in Florida and the car's in Oregon, how are you going to get it cross country? Transportation companies can cost thousands of dollars, and you should know that number before you buy. Are you really going to get into the car and drive it 3,000 miles home? Maintenance costs. Now this goes without saying, but you just can't take your classic car to the AutoZone for maintenance. Maintenance on a vintage car can be a sizable expense, as many times you need a specialty mechanic and the parts can be hard to find. All of this needs to be factored into your yearly costs of maintaining the vehicle. It's like building a pool in your backyard. There's a cost to build it, and then there's a cost to maintain it. Also, insurance. Classic car insurance can be different from regular car insurance since classic cars often have a higher value and may require special coverage. Classic car insurance policies may offer different coverage options. Some policies may have certain restrictions, such as limitations on how often the car can be driven, or requirements for secure storage when not in use. So make sure you know what you're getting into and what the costs are to insure. Now before we go, we need to go over scams to look out for. The truth is, you're dealing in a sketchy marketplace, and there is a thriving business of scam artists dealing in classic cars. So let's go over some. Title washing. This scam involves altering the title of a car to hide its true history. For example, a car that was previously salvaged may have its title washed to remove any mention of the salvage history. Fake documentation. Some scammers may create fake documentation for the car, such as fake titles, registration papers, or inspection reports. Trust me, I know. I used to take a car to a guy to pay $50 to have him smog check another car so my car would pass. Identity theft. Some scammers may use a fake identity to sell a stolen car or obtain payment for a car they don't own. Always verify the seller's identity and the VIN number to make sure it's a match. Odometer fraud. This scam involves rolling back the odometer to make it appear as though the car has fewer miles than it actually does. Seller fraud. I'm talking about a bait and switch where you buy a car and get a lesser vehicle without knowing. Or even worse, turning over your money and not getting a car at all. You pay someone money online and then they're just gone. Trust me, there's nothing worse than that. Fortunately, all of these can be avoided dealing with reputable sellers and having your own independent private inspection. One day the time will come and you'll consider selling your car. Selling your baby can be a bittersweet moment. However, if you thought about selling when you were thinking about buying, you're ahead of the game. Think of it like buying a house. The smart person updates a house in colors and designs that they know won't hurt the resale of the house years down the line. So if you buy a car thinking that one day you may want to sell it and not pass it down to your kids, then you may not want to paint that '54 Cadillac purple with racing stripes on the side. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this video helpful in your quest to buy a classic car. Remember, the key is to arm yourself with knowledge, and all links are in the description. And if you got a wild story about buying and selling your car, put it in the comments.